Hi everyone, it's Steph and welcome to another video. Today I ought to be finishing my double weave blanket shawl, which by the way is feeling amazing, but I'm not. I had one of those burning spur of the moment ideas of making a new padded sunglasses case and a matching little toiletries bag to put in my handbag. These are really handy, so I thought I'd film it and take you with me. Most mornings I sit outside on my back porch early with a coffee and I journal and listen to the birds. There's quite a few that visit me every morning, especially these little lorikeets. They are so funny together. There's quite a few of them, but these two are the ones that always stop by on the fence for a bit of a chat, along with some other birds, including a couple of pigeons. I thought I'd share this with you. Aren't they gorgeous? So nature interlude over and I'm back inside ready to weave. So I've got my 40 centimetre samplet loom from Ashford and I'm using a 12.5 dent reed. I'm weaving today with my recycled cotton from Ada Fibres, and I've got these 5 colours pulled out, but I ended up just dropping the last colour and having the first 4. So my weaving width in the loom is 35 centimetres, which is about 14 inches. To line my sunglasses case, I'm using 100% navy cotton. This is just a fat quarter. And I'm using this cotton batting. It's quite thin. This is just left over from an old quilting project. And I'm using these snap closures. I've got a couple of sizes here, but I ended up going for the large one. These are so handy. They're just snap open and snap closed. Really cheap to buy as well, and I think I got these from Temu. The ones I'm going to go with today are 10 centimetres long, which is about 4 inches. And lastly, the weaving length, the length of my warp. I'm just doing the width of my dining table, which is roughly around 98 centimetres, which is about 39 inches. So I'm just using my coat rack as my pegs because it's a really short warp. And yeah, I've put that around the wrong way, but I do realise eventually and put it around the right way. So a bit of a tip, always attach your apron rods to your reed because this really helps with tension and making sure that everything remains the same, especially the length, especially when you wind it on towards the pegs. So I'm starting with the navy and working along the 4 colours, doing 4 threads of each colour. I'm actually doubling the yarn, pulling the threads through both the slots and the holes. This cotton I think is a 7/2 or a 5/2 cotton, and I want a nice firm fabric, so doubling this is going to get me what I need. And yes, I'm still in my pyjamas. I do shower and change, I promise. This was a super easy warp up that took hardly any time whatsoever. I ended up just standing at the side and warping, and it was literally taking one step from one side to the other. So here are the colours. So I've done 4 of each colour, starting from the deep blue to the deep green, the brighter blue, and then the really pale green. And that's giving me some really nice ocean stripes and ocean vibes. I didn't bother tying them off and tying them on when changing colours because the distance between changing colours was quite short. But sometimes this can create tension issues at the very end, but there is a way of getting around that, and I'll show you towards the end of the weaving. So here I am, showered and changed, almost finished, just tying off that last thread before starting to wind on. Because it's a short warp, I'm just going to wind on directly to the pegs. I'm just unhooking the yarn connectors from the apron rod to the reed, and now I'm going to use this green cardboard as a warp separator. The cardboard is cut perfectly to size for the width of my dining table because clearly I do this a lot. Once I've wound on as far as I can go, it's time to get everything tied on and ready to weave. Because I have already warped up doubled using slots and holes, no threading is required. So it's just a simple matter of tying small groups of threads together with a knot. And I'm using the lash on technique with some scrap yarn, which is a great way to minimize any loom waste. And because I'm not using a fringe, this is the perfect method. Once I had the tension sorted, I spread the warp and started weaving. I used all of the colours in the weft, doing 8 picks of each colour in the same order. But as you can see here, because I've doubled my warp and I'm using a single weft, that the pattern remains warp dominant, which is absolutely fine with me. I love these stripes, they look so pretty. And if you look at it in a certain light, you can actually see the slight colour changes, which actually looks really pretty to me. Weaving was super easy. I just used 2 shuttles and put one colour on each side of the shuttle so I could have the 4 colours on 2 shuttles. This, as always, is my favourite part of the weaving process, where I just get to relax and weave. Sometimes I listen to an audiobook, sometimes I watch a show on telly, but as always I get to relax and weave. I kept weaving until I got to the end, and remember how I said that sometimes the tension or the shed might not be really clear when you get to this stage, especially if you didn't tie off your colours and carried them across. What you can do is just battle through the tricky shed until you get your shuttle all the way through, but don't pull your shuttle all the way through. I'll show you what I mean here. But just pop your shuttle up on edge as if you would a pickup stick. Then in the back, behind the heddle, just put something that separates the shed a lot easier. In this case, I just used one of those separator cardboard things that Ashford send you with your loom, and that worked out really well, and that meant that I could get another couple of inches of weaving in before having to end it off, and thus saving a little bit more yarn. I secured the end of the weaving with some more yellow scrap yarn, just a few picks, and then cut the weaving from the loom. I then just tied off in very small bundles just to secure it through the wet finishing process. For wet finishing, I popped this through my washing machine on a delicate cycle and then used the dryer because I wanted it to be a nice firm weave and I wanted it to be well finished and ready for sewing. To give you an idea on how much you lose in draw in and shrinkage, on the loom I did a 35 centimetre weaving width in the loom, which is just under 14 inches, and in the finished product the width is 32.5 centimetres or 12.75 inches. So I lost a fair bit in draw in and shrinkage, but that's good to know if I want to make this again, and then I'll know how big to make my project. So this has been washed and ironed, and now I'm just going to snip off all the tails and start sewing. To start, I just want to get rid of the knots at the beginning and the end. So I'm just going to zigzag close to where my scrap yarn is, the yellow yarn. And once that's all zigzagged, I can snip them off and the ends are secured. So I'm making a sunglass case and a little pouch. So I'm going to find the center and then zigzag either side of the center and then cut them apart so that I've got two pieces of fabric ready to go. The great thing about having striped fabric is once you've found the place at the top, it's just follow the stripes to find the place at the bottom. So easy. Now that I've cut the two pieces apart, I'm going to pop one to the side because that one will be the pouch and this one will be the sunglasses case. Now I've already got a sunglasses case, but it's not quite big enough for my favourite cheap, huge fly eye sunglasses, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to make a new one. So I know I want to make it just a little bit bigger. I'm just measuring and seeing if the fabric is long enough, which it is. And now I've got the snap closure and I'm just having a look and seeing how wide I need to make it as well. I decided to make it a little bit wider than the snap closure, which I think was probably a mistake because at the end it ended up being a little bit bunched up. So I think I needed to have made it exactly the same and matched the exact width instead of doing it a little bit wider. And if I think about it now, I probably should have gotten the longer snap closures as well, but this was the biggest one that I had. So if I made this again, note to self, just make sure I get the bigger snap closures. Now I'm just measuring out and cutting the cotton wadding, which is what I want to pad out the sunglasses case. From here on in, full disclosure, I am literally flying by the seat of my pants. I have never made these before and I did not research how to do it. I don't know why. I literally just flew straight into it without even thinking about how to sew it all together. I kind of just made it up as I went along. Afterwards, afterwards, after I'd finished, I then Googled it and found 3 or 4 or 5 ways of making the sunglass cases that was so much simpler and easier than what I did today. So if you are going to make your own sunglasses cases, Google it and do it yourself, and maybe do it a little bit differently to what I've done it today. I'm definitely going to redo this later on in a better way, but I did want to just share with you what I had done, because this was literally a 2-day project. I wove on day 1 and sewed on day 2. So now I've got my weaving for the outer edge. I've got my wadding, and I've also got the cotton lining. Now I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get all of this together. I trimmed the wadding to the width of the project because I didn't want the wadding into the seams. It would make them too bulky. So I've just pinned them down through the middle and then sewed them all along the edges and just secured the wadding to the weaving. Now I've just folded it in half with the right sides together, and I'm just pinning the edges, and then I'm going to sew up the sides right up where the wadding is on both sides. I then did exactly the same with the lining. I then zigzagged close to the line where I sewed and then trimmed off all the excess, and I did that both for the lining and also for the weaving part. I then turned the case right side out and just made sure that I poked those corners all the way out so they were nice and crisp. Then I put the lining inside, making sure that the right sides were out and the wrong sides were together. This was a little bit tricky because the pouch was a little bit smaller than my hand, but I got there in the end. Then I just used a back stitch to secure both of these together, the outer and the inner lining. Once that was done, I just trimmed off close to my back stitch all of the excess, just to make sure all of the edges were nice and even. I then turned the case inside out so I could attach the snap closure. Once I had it all smooth and I had the closure snap secured, this is what made it really tricky, and this is what made me realize that I should have done it a little bit more exact to the snap closure. But anyway, I folded the outer edges over the snap closure and then just secured the top edge down with a very quick whip stitch, just being careful to catch the inner layers and not the outer layer. I did that all the way around and then turned it right side out, smoothed it all together, and that's the sunglasses case done. The pouch was super simple. I just folded it in half and then pinned both edges and then sewn them together. Then I folded the top down just once. This thankfully fits around my machine if I just take the outer edge bit off. And I've just sewn down the top bit just to make sure that it doesn't fray and making sure those edges are neat. I've then folded it over again, leaving about an inch, and also leaving an inch in the middle here where the drawstring will go. So I'm actually going to sew from pin all the way around the outside to the second pin, leaving that inch little bit open. Once that's all sewn up, I'm just going to turn the pouch right side out, making sure those corners are poked out nice and neat. You can see it's looking all nice and neat, and all of the raw edges are finished. Now you can see the little pocket here that I can poke the string through. I've then measured out some fairly thick string for the drawstring and attached one end to a safety pin, which I've then wriggled all around the top until it comes out the other side. Then it's just simply knotting it together, trimming it down, and the draw pouch is done. I've now got a nice little set to pop in my handbag. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button. That will really help me. And also, if you haven't already, please subscribe. As always, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again soon.